friends, on talkSPORT and talkRADIO. 2 packets of 3. A joy of 6 for the weekend, courtesy of me, Paul Ross, with 3 Freeview film recommendations. But more importantly, the mighty Van Connor, one of the country's leading film critics, co-host of that great podcast, Off Screen, joins us now. Good morning, Van. How's your week been, mate? Have you seen any big new films this week?
Well, big would be a funny word. I saw Ant-Man this week. So I saw a small little film about a very small little hero that, took place in literally the smallest pocket of the universe, the quantum realm. I saw Quantumania, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, which, you know what? Marvel's back, doing it like no one else does.
Good news, because I was slightly concerned when they put Quantumania after a colon, they were going to go down that slightly OTT way of the Avengers, when everything's about ending life in the universe as we know it. Was the first Ant-Man film in particular. It was a lovely film, great, almost really in the character of the old early 60s Silver Age comics, I thought. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one, and I'm looking forward to finally catching up with the Magic Mike phenomenon. We spoke about this recently, kind of off air, because I've never seen a Magic Mike film, and I just assumed it was some kind of shades of grey sauce pot stuff for the ladies. Apparently not. And your first recommendation is, with the new Magic Mike on the way, Magic Mike 3, Magic Mike number 1. So tell us about why this one. What's the story as well?
So Magic Mike is the story of Mike Lane, played by Channing Tatum, who has a hand in, he produces, choreographs. It's loosely based on his own life story, his own experiences as a male dancer, sort of before he sort of came to prominence through Step Up and things like that. And Mike Lane is the veteran, the veteran male stripper, effectively, who takes a young recruit under his wing, played by Alex Pettyfer, in a movie that's directed by, Sex, Lies and Videotape director Steven Soderbergh. And the reason I have said Sex, Lies and Videotape and not Oceans 11, 12 and 13 is because this is a lot more in line with Sex, Lies and Videotape and The Girlfriend Experience. This is a gritty, down and dirty kind of indie drama. It's not quite as salacious as the marketing would have you believe. I mean, even the marketing for the new one amps up sort of TNA factor of it. It's a lot more of a drama with a dance element. Young recruit who is brought into this world, and they're all managed by Matthew McConaughey in assless chaps and a cowboy hat, exactly as you would expect. This is on BBC One tonight at 11:30. It's a good time, this one. Not quite in the way, say, that his marketing would suggest, but I think a really thoughtful, really heartfelt and thought-provoking drama. I've got a clip for you, and I think this sets the tone rather nicely. This is McConaughey on fine form, having the time of his life, chewing the scenery as he explains the role of the male dancer to their new inductee, their new recruit.
Will you like Mike? Find out tonight. Here we go.
You're not just stripping. You are fulfilling every woman's wildest fantasies. Right? You are the husband that they never had. You are that dreamboat guy that never came along. You are the one-night stand, that free fling of a that they get to have tonight with you on stage and still go home to their hubby and not get in trouble because you, baby, you made it legal. You are the liberation. Own it.
If General George Patton run a male strip club, that's the speech he would have given. That's a great speech. What a motivational speech. Me and Alex want to get our kiss off now and do the radio show naked from now on. Maybe not. Behave yourself, Stuart. Keep your hands where I can see them. So, that's Magic Mike. That's on tonight. I've gone for something that I think is an unusual film. I've seen it 2 or 3 times, and I come up with different impressions all the time. It's part magical fairy story, part heartbreaking, almost OTT, Kramer versus Kramer style sob story, and some of it is just plain weird, surreal. Jude Law pops up as a kind of Romeo Gigolo robot. There's fights are there for robots. It's kind of Blade Runner, but with a soft Spielberg edge. It's called AI, Artificial Intelligence, based, I think, on a screenplay he developed with the now deceased British science fiction writer Brian Aldiss, called Summer Toys Last All Summer Long. And basically, Haley Joel Osment's character is a boy robot. They've started making children robots to replace, if you like, somebody that's missing from a family, but he has the feelings of a human being, and this is an increasing concern with AI, and he can learn. He's learning feelings, but of course he's also kind of immortal. And he can't, and he, in the beginning, he doesn't really understand the way human beings react in certain situations. At times I found this heartbreaking, and then the ending, when, spoiler alert, it goes in a completely different direction, a huge 1,000 of years type jump into the future, had me coming up kind of uplifted, but it was almost a European film ending from the 1960s. It was like kind of Jean Cocteau had returned, or Fellini or somebody was back. It's a strange film, this one, I think. I think it's worth a look, though.
Oh, definitely. And like you say about the European edge, this was developed for, I think it was 25 years with Stanley Kubrick. So Kubrick had optioned the book in the early 70s and then got to the mid-1990s, and he'd kind of lost the vigor to do it and sort of handed it over to Spielberg with the idea that Spielberg would direct it and Kubrick would produce it. They actually did a test reel for this in the mid-90s with Joseph Mazzello from Jurassic Park as the boy. And then obviously they put it on hold so that Kubrick could go, and I think Spielberg handed it back to Kubrick. Kubrick put it on hold so that he could do Eyes Wide Shut, and then he died. And Spielberg then took it back over. And interestingly enough, this became the only film since Close Encounters of the First Kind that Spielberg had sole writing credit on. Wow. And they then, of course, cast the then hot property that was Haley Joel Osment, fresh off the back of Sixth Sense, to play our young lead. It's quite a cracker, as you say. It's almost like 2001 in that it's a movie that really goes in no direction that you could possibly conceive of. And it's got Jude Law as literally Gigolo Joe. His name is Gigolo Joe, which he's, again, just having the time of his life.
Absolutely. It's on Film Form. It's tonight, 9 o'clock. It's AI. I wish they hadn't put the colon artificial intelligence after, because he then given us E.T. and AI, two of the biggest blockbusters with the shortest names in film history. 9 o'clock tonight. Here's a burst of the trailer. Be warned, it will try your patience at times, but it's well worth the journey. Here we go.
When's your birthday? I never had a birthday.
His name is David.
I feel it. That's creepy. Whoa, that's so real.
In a distant future, in an age of intelligent machines, he is the first robotic child programmed to love and coexist as a member of a family. His is a tale of humanity and a journey to find his place among humans and machines.
I'm a boy.
You are a real boy. At least as real as I've ever made one.
Oh, little puppet made of pie and awake, the gift of life is thine. Big old Pinocchio element to this film as well, of course. And now let's turn to your second recommendation, staying in the world of futuristic sci-fi. This is harder science fiction, though, and it's Gravity, with your Sandra Bullock and your George Clooney. But a rom-com it ain't, this one, is it, Van?
No, it's definitely neither rom nor com, this one. Although it does have a couple of sort of awkward laughs, because it's a survival thriller, and if you're going to make it realistic, you have to find the funny. So, Sandra Bullock is Dr. Ryan Stone. She's working on the International Space Station with George Clooney's, veteran astronaut Kowalski. When a disaster strikes, the station is hit by debris, and she is left adrift in space and has to fight for her very survival. This involves the pair of them literally journeying from the remains of the space station over to the Chinese space station, and then trying to find their way back to Earth. It's a heck of a ride, this. When it came out, I marked this as the definitive IMAX 3D experience. It's one of the few films I ever raced out to buy on 3D Blu-ray, back when 3D was very briefly a thing again. I think they should bring this back once a year in IMAX screens in 3D, genuinely, forever and ever, in perpetuity. Great movie. Alfonso Cuarón directing. You've got great cinematography from Manuel Lubezki, haunting score from Stephen Price. It's just a breathtaking, absolutely white-knuckle ride of a thriller. Interesting. I mean, got a lot of Oscar love. I think, memory serves, Sandra Bullock's character was written as male. And then when they cast her, they changed nothing. And it's one of those movies that you can watch making of documentaries that are as long as the film itself and equally fascinating. You've never seen it, absolutely check it out. If you have seen it, it's a bit divisive, I find. My ex-fiance was dead against it, which should have told me a lot, if I'm honest. You can see this Saturday night, BBC 2 at 7:15. I can't recommend it highly enough. I've got a clip for you. This is George Clooney basically laying out the state of affairs as they stare into the abyss.
So tomorrow night, 7:15, did you say, to an unusual time for a BBC 2 film?
It's only a nice, tidy 90-minuter as well.
Okay, over to you then, Professor George Clooney.
Houston and the blind to confirm. Mission Specialist Dr. Stone and Mission Commander Matthew Kowalski are the sole survivors of the SDS-157.
I apologize for not complying. I should have stopped working as soon as he instructed me to.
We were going to get hit no matter what. There's nothing you could do to change that. Hey.
Yes.
All right. We have to make our way to the space station. Over there.
It's a bit of a hike. We need to use their escape pod, the Soyuz, to get back to Earth.
And if memory serves, Sandra Bullock, for most of the film, was only wearing knickers and a vest. Is that right? They spent nothing,
that's about right.
They spent nothing on co-stars and nothing much on the wardrobe either. Now, my second recommendation is an absolutely masterful film, I think. The sequel is like The Godfather. In the 70s, two strange things happened. Two sequels were as good, if not better, than the original. Certainly true in The Godfather 2. I think it's also true of French Connection 2. Together make a perfect film. And French Connection 1, the original one, is on Talking Pictures TV tomorrow night, 11:15 p.m. It's basically about exactly that. How heroin is getting into the States. So it's coming through, we believe, Marseille. Of course, then France had very strong links with Indochina, into the Far East, into where opium was produced, of course. And there's a hideous kind of Marseillais gangster involved in it. But there's an incredibly tense chase. Two men. I mean, this is pure cinema for me. Hitchcock could have done this.
Oh, yeah.
John Frankenheimer does it, though, brilliantly. Two men kind of walking after each other on the metro system, the new underground system, and it's incredibly tense, that film, and a real kind of standoff moment, reprised at the end there with a wonderful little wave from Gene Hackman, because it does star, folks, Gene Hackman, who gives him patience and aggression and controlled fury like nobody else. We missed him last week, we were talking about him. He's a genius. Roy Schneider's his number 2 in it as well, of course. It's before Jaws. About 72, 73 this film came out. One of the first X films that it's called I'd ever seen. Very full of buzz, almost documentary feel to some of these shots. It's filmed obviously in Upper New York in particular. It's like a war zone, I think. It looks, devastated. Crime is winning. It's a great film, this. Well done, Talking Pictures TV, for sharing it with us. 11:15 on tomorrow night, Saturday night. French Connection. I've got a bit of the trailer.
All right, Popeye's here. Get your hands on your heads. Get off the bar and get on the wall. What's my name?
Popeye Doyle. If he doesn't like you, he'll take you apart. And it's all perfectly legal, because Doyle fights dirty.
You want to take a ride there, fat man?
And plays rough.
Anybody want a milkshake?
Doyle is bad news, but he's a good cop.
We're going now. Bye.
Bad news of the good cop. That's a great tagline for a poster, wasn't it? The 70s is fascinating for cinema, isn't it? I know there's that great book about Raging Bulls, whatever it's called, but it's before things were compartmentalised again in the 80s, before the decision about summer blockbusters, courtesy of Star Wars and things, and it seemed that these directors could get these. I mean, this was filmed like a real mad independent film. Now, it was one of the biggest hits of the year, wasn't it, French Connection?
It really was. It was, this is kind of it's smack in the middle of the Hollywood New Wave movement. My favourite story about French Connection, actually, is we have Howard Hawks, of all people, to thank for it. Yeah. Because I think Friedkin, if memory serves, was living with Hawks' daughter at the time. Friedkin asked Howard Hawks when he was visiting one day, what do you think of my films? And he said, they're lousy. Go and make a movie with a chase, because chases are boring. Go and reinvent the car chase. Yeah. And he literally went and did that.
Yeah. And John Frankenheimer, when he made Ronin, which I think is an underrated film, he said, I owe it all to William Friedkin. So the challenge is being passed down. Also, here's a little known fact, maybe not, but this film, with the relationship between Gene Hackman's character, Popeye Doyle, and Roy Schneider, and a film now forgotten called Freebie and the Beam with James Caan and Alan Arkin, led directly to Starsky and Hutch. Because they, in the way that Alas Smith and Jones was inspired by Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, a big hit at the cinema, they turned it into a kind of weird TV film. It's a great film, folks. I can't praise it enough. 11:15, Talking Pictures TV tomorrow night. My final recommendation is on BBC 2, Sunday night. It's at 10. Clint Eastwood is now, I think, 92 or 93 years old. He can still act up a storm. He's acting his age, though, and he's keeping his shirt on, as he said that when you get over 50, keep your shirt on. And he's in The Mule, which is about a guy whose life was pretty much unravelled as he's got into his 90s, effectively, and he needs a bit of money, he's estranged from his family, and he takes on a driving job, because he's a very cautious, very careful driver. There's a lot of older drivers. I'm not, stereotyping them, but my father-in-law's got a sticker in the back. I'm sticking to the limit, back off. And this is that kind of driver, only he takes a job unwittingly as a drug courier. And because he's so above suspicion, and when the police stop him, they want to help him, not nick him or search the boot of his car, he becomes like the most successful drug courier for these various cartels, and the violence and the madness is happening around him. But even these insane people with so much at stake, they kind of have almost a grudging love for him. I think it's a very charming film, this one. It doesn't go anywhere near the direction I thought it was going to go in. It's called The Mule, BBC 2, 10 o'clock Sunday night. Did you like this one? I've heard a few people say they thought it was too slow and a bit too tepid, but I just thought it was a charming film, this one.
I quite like this one. It was the first time Clint Eastwood had acted since Trouble with the Curve, which was about 6 years previous. He'd been directing things in the meanwhile. But it was nice to see him back, and in a role that really only Clint Eastwood or maybe Gene Hackman could really have pulled off. Yeah.
And also, we mentioned Trouble with the Curve in the week. I think his previous acting would have been another great farewell to his character in Gran Torino, which is another underrated, I think, late Clint Eastwood film. So it's The Mule, BBC 2 at 10. Here's a burst of the trailer.
Family's the most important thing. Don't do what I did. I put work in front of family. more important to be somebody out there than the damn failure I was in my own home.
Nobody ever says on their deathbed, I wish I spent more time at the office. A good film, that one. And finally, you've gone for a blockbuster, and no mistake. Tell us about Kong Skull Island, featuring, as a demented, almost psychopathic Vietnam veteran commander, Samuel L. Jackson, amongst many other people. Weird film. I think it's a good film, this one. A good roller coaster, but a weird film, this one.
Oh, yeah, totally weird. So this is the second chapter of the so-called Monsterverse that began in 2014 with Gareth Edwards. I want to say he's Edwards. Gareth Edwards' I was getting confused with Gareth Evans. Gareth Edwards' Godzilla. You then get this. There's then Godzilla King of the Monsters, then Godzilla vs. Kong, and Godzilla and Kong, which is filming at the moment. This is chapter 2, however. This takes place in the 1970s. It's as the tide is turning in Vietnam, as America is starting to withdraw from Vietnam, and it follows the expedition by the shield-like organization Monarch to Skull Island, where they don't seem to realize there may in fact be a giant monkey that could kill them all. You've got a great cast that includes, as you say, Samuel L. Jackson, Thomas Mann, Shea Wiggum, John Goodman. I'm forgetting John Goodman, of all people, and John C. Reilly. There is some absolutely fantastic imagery in this. Jordan Vogt-Roberts absolutely directs the hell out of it. Banging soundtrack full of epic needle drops, as you can imagine from the period setting. And of course, Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson front and center as the sexy adventuring couple. This is on 5-star on Sunday night at 9 o'clock. And it's a cracker to end the weekend with, even if you're not a fan of these kind of movies. This one is, I would say, the most accessible of this entire franchise. It's the one that's got the most broad popcorn appeal, and of course, loads of giant monsters fighting, and it's fun. What's more fun than that?
Marvellous stuff. And you got a clip for us then, Ben?
I have, in fact. This is a clip for you. This is Samuel L. Jackson, again, getting the lay of the land, just trying to work out quite where they should go and how they should get off of the eponymous Skull Island.
Make no bones about it, you enjoy Skull Island. It's 5-star, I think you said, on Sunday nights. Here's that clip.
Yeah, you smell that? That's death.
What the hell is this place?
This is what's left of Kong's parents.
I've taken enough photos of mass graves to recognize one.
The crash site's just on the other side of this valley. We'll cross through and make it to the highest point west.
This place is a real no-no, sir.
We need to be going to the north side right now.
And you're welcome to do that, my man. By yourself. I'm not leaving Jack out there. Now, who's with me?
We can make it.
You're mighty right we can make it. Now, stay sharp. Keep an eye out.
I've only been here 28 years. What do I know?
They don't all make it. Van, always an immense pleasure having you on the programme, matey. So tell us about Off-Screen then, because it's dropping later on this morning, isn't it, your podcast?
It is indeed. 8 a.m. on podcast platforms. As always, here Adam Ball and I are discussing the likes of Ant-Man, the follow-up to The Father, imaginatively entitled The Son, and of all things, a movie about the pro-nuclear argument, which is called Atomic Hope, which is not a concept I ever thought I would be discussing on cinema, but there you have it on podcast platforms from 8 a.m.
He's our main man. He's going to be fine. It's Van Connor there with his Freeview film recommendations for the weekend. He gave us 3. I gave a packet of 3 as well. And it's a wrap now. We're live till 5. Cheers, Van.